If everyone would just do their part. We have our second full moon in Aquarius happening right now on August 22nd. This is going to be occurring at 8:01 a.m. Eastern Time. We had another Aquarius full moon last month at the second degree of Aquarius. That was on July 23rd. So we're going to see kind of a rehash of some of the themes that we previously explored. This full moon is occurring at 29 degrees and 37 minutes of Aquarius. So it's definitely a different vibe. It's a whole different chart. And there is a primal difference, there is a primordial difference in the degrees. So an earlier degree is going to function a lot differently than a later degree. There's many reasons why, but most importantly, this full moon is happening at the anaretic degree of a sign, which is the last degree of any sign. Along with that degree is a sense of urgency. There's something that we have to do, and we have to do it now, and we have to do it before we change signs, because hours after this full moon in Aquarius, the sun, obviously the moon's going to quickly progress into Pisces, and later on that day, the sun is going to move into Virgo. So it's going to immediately start to shift. So there's something that we have to learn. There's something that we have to grasp, or there's something that we have to do. Perhaps in the sign of Aquarius, it's about mobilizing. So there's something that we have to do on behalf of the collective. So there's also a polarity that we want to continue to explore, which we've been doing for much of the month. As the Leo planets have been opposing the Aquarius planets, we've been talking a lot about this theme around individualism and how both signs, Aquarius and Leo, are very individualistic. But one of the key differences is that Leo just naturally feels apart. It's just a tendency for Leo to naturally feel apart and to feel loved on, and to be generously sharing the love and the warmth of the sun. They're ruled by the sun with other people. We all know that Leo is comfortable in the spotlight, generally speaking. So there's something about an audience that is a part of the Leo archetype. Leo loves the audience, loves to be, they feel like they're a part of something. Whereas Aquarius just naturally tends to feel like more of an outsider. My husband is an Aquarius. He recently said to me, he said that learning as a younger child to be excluded was really formative and really valuable for him to naturally learn how to be a part of something. And we know that Aquarius, the archetype, they naturally feel like outsiders, but at the same time, they're very group oriented. So this axis really highlights how to bring your individual talents and strengths and the things that make you unique and special, and bring those into a group dynamic without necessarily needing to be front and center, but just to be a part of and to contribute. Aquarians are really great listeners. They know how to engage in dialogue. They know how to get people comfortable and to get them to keep talking. Aquarians aren't necessarily the most comfortable talking about themselves. They'd rather speak generally or talk about you or talk about something else rather than themselves. So yeah, there is an element of that to be explored here, especially as the full moon is going to conjoin Jupiter. So there's something very different about this full moon versus the last one. The last one was pretty close to Saturn, and it was not the nicest full moon. It was a lot of now I remember. The moon and the sun were translating light basically from Pluto to Saturn. So they were stuck in this it just wasn't a good vibe. It wasn't the vibe that we wanted for an Aquarius full moon. This one is going to feel a lot better. So it's nice to know that we get a little bit of a redo. This full moon is going to be conjoined Jupiter, and Jupiter is the silver lining. Jupiter is the optimism. Jupiter is the hope and the belief and the faith. Now it's in Aquarius, so it's a little toned down from where it was a few months ago in Pisces, where we all got that encouragement to go back out there and celebrate and really live. We're scaling it back a little bit now that Jupiter's in Aquarius. We're just being a little bit more cautious again, and but still there's hope that this full moon has to offer with a conjunction to Jupiter. There's some kind of encouragement. There's some kind of just like stay with it. There's just like a lot of encouragement and hope, but also paralleling and coupled with pragmatism and being cautious and being careful and all of those themes that we've been dealing with now for a year plus. So yes, Jupiter is in Aquarius. We've been working with Jupiter in Aquarius since December of 2019. And we have seen that Jupiter in Aquarius seems to parallel the availability of vaccines. And we see that the distribution began upon Jupiter's ingress into Aquarius. So noticing that parallel, it's kind of not shocking to see that we're seeing like formal announcements of the booster shot and the guidelines for who's eligible and who should think about getting one right as we're approaching this full moon in Aquarius conjunct Jupiter. One of the other things that I've noticed since the last full moon is this critique that I've been seeing around and in my circle on hyper individualism and how that's not helping our global climate crisis and all of that. And we know that Aquarius cares about, we all have to work together. And we know that Saturn is in this ongoing square with Uranus in Taurus, which is all about waking us up to the ecological crisis that we're in. So yeah, this full moon is ruled by that Saturn, which is in this square to Uranus. So there's something about this full moon in Aquarius that is really encouraging us, Jupiter, to work together as a team, to work together as a group, to work toward a common goal, Aquarius, and to have faith in that, to have faith that it's not too late to turn things around, whatever your cause is, whether it's the earth or something else. There's a way through this if we work together. I recently finished reading a book called This One Wild and Precious Life by Sarah Wilson. And one thing that she was really touching on in that book and speaking to was the sense of feeling completely overwhelmed by all the problems in the world. And I know I was going through it yesterday. I was really feeling it. And I just remembered what she wrote, and she said, when you feel so much pressure and it feels like you can't do anything, you feel almost paralyzed because there's just so much heaviness, so many huge problems facing us as a species right now. She said, you know what, do something. And I remember back from my yoga training, they said, start and the pressure will be off. So I want to encourage you to participate in whatever it is that's really bothering you, in whatever way that you can. It's just do something. And then Sarah Wilson, she says, and then do something else. Like once you have the one thing figured out, then go on and do something else. She's mostly speaking to the environment, but of course this could be applied to whatever it is that's on your mind right now that is pertaining to a group participation. So yeah, do something, do what you can, and have faith that that is enough, because we can't take the weight of the world on our shoulders as individuals. So do something. If we all do something, that's gonna have an effect, right? So that's a little bit about this full moon. The other thing about it is that there's being at the anaretic degree, there's an urgency. Like I have to do something. So yeah, just do something. And then hopefully we'll be feeling a lot better after that. So yeah, that's a little bit about the second Aquarius full moon. And I hope it is so much better for you than the last one. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you want more astrology in your world, you can join me on Instagram, Twitter, and yes, even Patreon. I've got special offerings there. Also, you can connect with me on my website. You can book your reading there. You can also check out my classes and offerings. If you want to study the art of astrological forecasting, Timing with Transits is an 11-week mentorship, and that begins in 4 weeks. That begins on September 8th. So I hope to see you there.